Recoil, PUBG's ultimate skill. But how do you master it? The truth is, it takes time. But don't worry, there are some quick tips and lessons you can use to start learning those perfect 6 times scope beams right now. Is that the bike boy? This was during my warm-up game yesterday. Recoil is how your gun kicks when firing. On console, it's a bit easier than PC. We have half the recoil, in fact. That means, even though thumbs aren't as precise as using a mouse, controlling guns can be a little bit simpler. I've tested every AR on console to map out the recoil patterns so you guys can see exactly what's going on when you shoot. The quickest tip I can give at the start of this video though is that horizontal recoil is much harder than vertical on console. But let's take a little look and go into depth. The best way to think of recoil is to think of it as the climb speed of a gun while holding the trigger. Each gun has a unique pattern and your brain needs time to learn it. Most of our guns actually reach the same vertical height, but each of them have a little bit of a different horizontal spread. And once again, this image is guns with no attachments apart from a red dot. So with more attachments, you can make these guns much better. But as you can see, the FAMAS, the Groza, actually a lot easier to control than the rest of the guns. Let's talk about vertical recoil. Stick pressure. You don't need to pull hard if your sensitivity is high. Adjusting vertical sensitivity makes small corrections more effective, letting you react faster with less stick movement. You can adjust this setting right here. So if you need to do that, if you're struggling with controlling your recoil vertically, get this setting changed. The higher it is, the easier it is to pull down. When looking back at our chart, you can see that the first initial spray is a nice short burst, which makes it much easier if you're going to burst fire your gun than a full long spray. So if you can learn to do quick short sprays, you should be able to get a little bit better of them AR sprays if you do struggle. Each AR has a different spray, even though some of them reach the same height. So you have to try and visualize each gun's climb. Some ARs kick sharply at first then level off, others rise consistently. So looking at our recoil patterns, you can choose what kind of gun you want to use and how to learn. The harder you find recoil, the lower on the list you should use right now. Now, most of you should know this, but crouching reduces recoil up to 20%. This is a huge benefit, and for this reason, a lot of people use a paddled controller. The reason to use a paddled controller is when you crouch with your back paddle, you do not have to remove your thumb off the thumbstick to continue shooting and aiming and that kind of things. But this is huge, massive. If you're really getting into PUBG, maybe getting a paddled controller would be worth it for you. If you also pair this with standing still and firing, you don't get the extra screen shake when shooting. So this is a massive benefit, and make sure you're crouching. If you are really struggling with the vertical recoil, practice with 5 to 10 short bursts when shooting in training mode. Focus on syncing your stick pull with the gun's climb. Once it feels natural, you can move over to longer time sprays. There's a few longer training drills we can do for this as well, but we'll talk about them later in the video. Have you ever noticed that your AR is easier to control in single fire? That's because the second bullet jumps higher. If you take a look at this image, you can see the second bullet of most guns is a lot further apart than the rest of the bullets. Beginners struggle here. To counter this, pull your stick down faster on that second shot, then slow it down over time. This will feel natural the more you do it. And a reminder, if the vertical recoil is giving you trouble, you can turn up your vertical sensitivity. This lets your stick react more, so you don't need to fight it as much if you're not able to pull it down. Horizontal recoil is one of the hardest things to learn in PUBG and will take some serious time to get good at. The horizontal recoil is where your gun goes left and right while you're shooting and has certain patterns to it and is really, really hard to naturally understand and learn. This comes from a lot of just playing and muscle memory. Now we know that horizontal recoil is more important than vertical recoil. If we take a look at our list again, you can see guns such as the AKM have a lot more random bounces in them which will actually make them harder to control than guns higher up on the list. The M4 may go slightly higher, but its curves are much easier to control than that random movement. This will be the same for most 5 guns versus 7 guns, but the recoil on console is kind of weird, so there may be some little random bits what aren't like that. But most of all, that's what you'll see. So 5 guns will be much easier to control, even though they technically can have more recoil than some of the 7 guns. To counter this, you have to do micro adjustments with your stick where you kind of go left, you kind of go right to adjust it and get a bit better. Another way to counter this though is by leaning. Leaning has become very popular in console in the last few years as it's a little bit behind PC PUBG. People didn't grab onto it straight away, but lean spamming now is extremely strong and you can lean to counteract that horizontal recoil. Going the opposite way of your recoil with your lean will push you back into the enemy. If you can learn spam lean, this will make it very, very easy to do that horizontal recoil. I do believe this works better at close range than long range, but it's definitely a good tip and get yourself practicing in training mode doing this with your recoil patterns. And just a reminder again, crouching reduces recoil up to 20%. This is very important and make sure you're crouch fighting in those fights. Standing still is also very important. I spoke about it a little bit before, but moving while firing adds sway and faster climb. Learning to stay still improves sprays, but this will take a lot of practice as you still don't want to be sitting there standing and crouching in the open, if that makes sense. You have to learn how to use cover and to quickly lean spam out of cover while also standing still. So you have to have a little practice at this, but in training mode, you've got nothing to worry about. Now, training mode is a great place to learn. I actually spend like 30 minutes to an hour in here every morning when just starting up my streams. But there's lots of different places you can go to practice all those different types of recoil. If you're struggling with vertical, just go line up with a wall and practice trying to condense your spray into a nice clean spot. Once you're feeling a little bit more comfortable with that, I head over to the 200-meter range. This is where you have to track targets, but they're not ridiculously far away. This is great for using your red dot on your barrel or whatever. Try and be a little bit snappy. Learn your crouching when shooting, running around the targets as well. Can make it much easier to learn if you are struggling. You could also go into this training area as well. I don't know if everybody knows this, but you can teleport into it by clicking the right stick. Once you're in here, if you go to aim trainer, you can then practice hitting these targets as quickly as you can. Now, I go for the double headshot kill with a barrel when practicing this. You don't have to do this. You can go for full body sprays just to try and get your aim on and a lot better. But when I go for the headshot sprays, I try and aim for 50 targets. Now, 50 targets is quite a lot, and that means you're shooting pretty much perfectly when you're doing this. But anything over 30 to 35 is decent. If you can hit 40, you're doing pretty well, your reactions are good, and your sprays are even better. And if you're struggling with your horizontal recoil, it's good to just kind of run around the training ground and look for any object which is small, like these little poles here. You can do a little bit of a lean spam on these and practice your micro adjustments while being further away. Due to them being a very small size, these are much better practice than being in like the actual game. Once you feel comfortable in training, team deathmatch is the next move. I think team deathmatch is one of the best ways to learn PUBG. Now, this won't teach you gameplay mechanics and won't teach you how to play the Battle Royale game, but it will teach you how to shoot. Team deathmatch is perfect for practicing against real players without waiting 30 minutes for a fight. You can practice your close sprays with scopes and red dots. Remember though, TDM is for learning recoil, not strategy. The real game requires positioning, movement, and survival skills to be able to win. But get yourself in team deathmatch, try and go positive, try and learn how to get as many kills as you can. If you're not going positive in there, you probably need to work on that aiming just a little bit more. Now, if you've done all that, you're feeling good with your red dot, you're feeling good with your horizontal recoil, your vertical recoil, all that kind of things, you're probably going to want to use your 3x and 6x scope. Now, when you move over to your 3x and 6x scopes, they're going to feel a little bit weird. They have an extra screen shake and more of a tilt when using them. It makes them feel much harder to use than your red dot. Now, once again, I hate to keep repeating myself, but practice. Practice, practice, practice. Get yourself in training mode with your 6x scopes. Practice the same way we did before. Get that condensed, nice recoil pattern on the wall. Head over to the targets and then practice your sprays. You should be able to hit these consistently and nicely without worrying about your recoil going absolutely mental. Once you kind of feel comfortable in there and you can do it, get yourself in team deathmatch again. Use one of the easier to control recoil guns. Get the 6 times on. Zoom your 6 times all the way into a 3 times. And then practice spraying again. Once you get this down, you'll be good to go in the Battle Royale. So remember, our main tips from this video. Vertical sensitivity. One of the most important things in the whole game for controlling recoil. If you're struggling with your vertical sense, make sure you up that vertical sensitivity. If you're pulling down too far, you might have to lower that vertical sensitivity. Remember how important crouching is and standing still is. And you need to make sure your mind is focused on that when playing the game. Don't forget about your cover though, because you need that also. Get yourself in training mode, get yourself practicing. It is very, very, very much a mental game. You have to learn, you have to get your hours in to get better at the game. I've been playing over 300 days in this game now, and I'm still learning how to do it. There's people with more time who are even better. Hopefully this video has helped you, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. We'll have more tutorials and videos coming on the way, so thanks for supporting the video, and we'll catch you next time.